All right, here we are. We are hosting our Selling a Home in a Pandemic Year. I am Rosa Helen, and I'm so happy that you're here with us this Saturday morning. And you must have a need to sell a home, or at least maybe thinking about selling a home in the near future. And I hope that you find this webinar to be helpful and you get some nugget or two out of this seminar. And I want to make this interactive, so if there's any questions that come up, feel free to just chime in. And today I have a guest with me, and I have Sejal Parekh. So first, let me introduce myself, and I'll introduce Sejal, and she will do her introduction. I'm Rosa Helen. I'm a realtor with Innovae Real Estate, and I've been doing real estate for almost 15 years. I was licensed back in 2005, December 2005. And back then, I have a high-tech background, so I was a software engineer before, and just wanted something out of the box, something that involved more people interaction that doesn't require a cubicle around me. And I was just getting really claustrophobic in my career and wanted to help people more on a personal level. And earlier that year in 2005, my husband and I bought our first home. And going through the process with our agent just sort of opened my eyes to, what it would be like to help people fulfill one of their dreams, which is owning a home. And so I started researching and studying for my state license, and just opened my eyes to the possibility of being a realtor and helping people. So real estate wasn't my only choice. I actually was very interested in photography. So I was thinking about being a wedding photographer as well, and being a pastry chef. And so out of the three, real estate was definitely something easiest to get in, and could be lucrative if I got really good at it. So never looked back since then, and I've helped many friends and family and clients fulfill their dreams of home ownership. So I've been with Intero for the entire length of this time, and just Intero has brought so much technology and just knowledge, and the legal department of Intero has just been tremendous this year with the pandemic year. Educating us on all of the legal changes and the form changes in the 2020 of all the turbulence. So I've been very happy with Intero. I never saw a need for change. So I'll stop talking about me, and I'll introduce Sejal Parekh with Innovae Designs. And she is a professional stager out of the Bay Area. She stages all over the place. She's an amazing person. And just her choice of colors and just artwork designs have always impressed me. So I have her here on the show. Sejal, do you want to say a few things about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Rosa. It was great to hear a little more about your background. And I have a kind of a similar-ish story. So I have been staging for the past 12 years in the Bay Area. I also came out of the corporate world. I used to work in medical devices doing clinical trials on heart valves and carotid stents, and we would work with different physicians and hospitals to test our devices. But I lost my mom to cancer, and she was very creative, and that was the spark that I needed to. I've always loved decorating, arranging rooms. I would, when I was young, rearrange my bedroom because I would get yelled at for moving the furniture so much. So I would do it in the middle of the night, and then my mom would still find out in the morning that I had moved my furniture. But I've always loved decorating, and like I said, I kind of saw my mom, she had a great flair for that. So I took a class on staging. I loved it, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, and left the corporate world to start my company. So we stage all over, Rose, as you said. Mainly we focus on the South Bay and the Peninsula, although we're getting kind of stretching out a little bit, doing a few things in the East Bay. I don't really go into the city much, but maybe close on the outskirts of the city. And I love it. I love working with clients. It's a very neat process. You get to work closely with the listing agent and the seller, and you almost become like family for a couple months because you know their home as well as they know their home.
Oh yeah.
And it's always a kind of fun and bittersweet. You know, this is a big moment in people's lives when they're selling their homes. So I feel like we've tried to handle with a lot of care and thought, and really thinking how this is usually that money that comes from their home sale is for their retirement or for their next move up, move down, whatever it is. So it's such a big moment, and it's kind of an honor to be able to be an integral part of that part of people's lives. So
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. And you touched upon something about having this intimate relationship with your listing agent and the homeowners. And I feel the same way when a seller hires me. I feel like I'm really in their lives for, 2 to 3 to 4 months out of the year. And you do literally intimately know their schedule. You know when they go to sleep, when they go to bed, because there's constant communication. So it's a really special relationship, and I really cherish that when someone decides to hire me.
Yes.
Great to hear that from you as well.
Yeah.
Great. So a little bit of market review. So we are in a very special year this year with the coronavirus, and this is nowhere near our normal year. But where we stand right now is that the market is starting to pick up, and we are seeing multiple offers. We are seeing that things are selling rather very quickly. There's just no predictability in this market, but buyers are out again, and we are seeing an increase in inventory. There are more listings out there. We still do need more listings to basically quench all of this buyers' needs. The market is doing very well. In some places, prices have even gone up. So I'm very hopeful that the market trend continues to grow and that we are seeing a recovery already here in the Bay Area for real estate. So I want to start our seminar here with just some data. And we have a MLS listing system. This is where you see all of the listings that show up. And I wanted to share with you this Aculus company. It's an MLS listings company, and they do all of the heavy data research, and they provide us realtors with just snapshots week by week, month by month on how the market is doing as a whole. And so the 5 MLS listing counties that the MLS listing system include are San Mateo, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey County. So all of the information that I'm going to be sharing in the next couple of slides include all of these counties. So a pretty large area, but it's a good, I guess, sum of the Bay Area and a little bit of San Benito and Monterey County as well. So the first chart I'm going to share, we're going to be looking at the new sold versus canceled and withdrawn listings. We're looking at March 1st through May 31st, this time frame. I do have data from May through end of June, or July actually, in the next slides. But this data basically shows us what's happened since shelter in place, since coronavirus hit us. So I want to spend just a few minutes here sharing what has been happening since springtime into the early parts of summer. So let me first define what a new listing is. New listing is a fresh listing that's never been on the market. It's brand new. Sold listing, obviously, it's gone through the marketing process and it went from pending to sold. Canceled listings are listings where the sellers just decided that, you know what, I'm going to pull the plug on selling. I'm not going to sell at all. I've changed my mind for whatever reason. I'm going to cancel the listing agreement with the listing agent. So that's a canceled listing. Withdrawn listings is a little bit different. Withdrawn listing means that the seller changed their mind temporarily and they're going to pull the house off of the market temporarily, but they do plan to put it back on, maybe in 2 months, maybe in 3 months, and the listing agreement is not canceled with the listing agent, and there is still plan for them to put it back on the market. So there is a difference between the canceled and withdrawn listings. So here, actually I'm gonna click on this pointer tool. I hope you guys can see this pointer. So we have a couple indicators or lines here. Here's the SIP, shelter in place started. I kind of remember the date being March 17th, but anyway, MLS listing has as March 19th here, so off just by a couple of days. So what happened around this shelter in place line? So before this, we had a really, really strong spring market. You can see that the number of listings, the blue line, is just, it's a very large scale. There were a lot of inventory, a lot of new listings got on the market. And right out of the gate, we were seeing multiple offers. A lot of homes were getting on. There were a lot of buyer activities. There were still not enough homes to go around for the buyers. And so a lot of multiple offers, and it was a very heated market. But what happened when SIP occurred? We see the canceled and withdrawn listings spike. So the canceled listings and withdrawn listings, so the purple and the red lines, there was a big spike during the SIP period. Sellers were nervous and pulled their homes off the market, whether permanently or temporarily. And we see an immediate decline as well in new homes getting on the market. So the yellow line is the blue line is the new homes getting on. So people were basically kind of frozen. We didn't know what was happening with this new coronavirus. We were put in shelter in place. Real estate actually was frozen for the first 2 weeks since SIP. We were not allowed to show properties. Real estate was not considered essential, but only for a couple of weeks. I have a note here that's showing around April 1st, showing to vacant homes were starting to be allowed again. The governor had changed some of the orders, and he had decided that real estate is essential, but we can only show vacant homes. So around April 1st was when that was allowed. And then I want to also point out here, showing resume. So this showing resume that the Oculus company had put a line there around May 4th, early parts of May. So around early part of May, they decided that now we can show both vacant and owner-occupied homes as long as the owner stepped out of the property. And so previously, they had defined vacant and owner-occupied as separate classes. Vacant properties is there's nobody living there, you can show freely. But owner-occupied, because the owner still lived in the home, they had considered it unsafe. But as long as the owner stepped out of the house, then they allowed agents to bring their clients 2 at a time into the properties, and we can show those properties as if they were vacant. And you can also see the blue line here. It started to peak just almost end of April. So these are new homes. And so I think at that time, people were just, maybe coming out of their shelters. They felt like, okay, this is now the new norm. We have to move on with our lives, our plans. And so people started to feel comfortable to put their homes back on the market again. And so you can see that in the blue line, the new homes getting on the market, it started to increase near the end of April, and it's still increasing into the summer. So this is really encouraging. And this is still a trend into the current day, which is we're August 1st here. We are seeing more and more inventory come on. And I think it's because people either decided that, they can no longer stop living, or they realize that I just don't like where I live, and therefore I want to sell and buy something else, or move out of the area, or move closer to family. So there are more and more listings coming on the market, which is really encouraging news. What about the solds? So the sold is the yellow line here, okay, the yellow line. You can see that the solds a little bit mid-April through mid-May. So right about here to about there, it lagged a bit. You can see that there is a decrease in activity in the number of solds. And this makes sense, right? because a normal escrow is about 30 days. And if we were to look back 30 days before that, we were in SIP. We were just put in SIP. We were considered non-essential. So everything was frozen. And so it would make sense that there is a lag in number of solds 30 days later. But now this sold line is starting to pick up again. What that means is there are more and more things selling in the market. So again, another very encouraging factor that, real estate really hasn't stopped functioning. We, realtors, title companies, lenders, everyone's still working. We have not stopped working. Real estate did not stop. We were just interrupted. And the trend here is showing us that there is a bunch of activities that is happening, and there is demand. Buyers are out there buying properties. Sellers are listing their homes for sale. And in this next chart, it's shown differently. This is more tabular, more numbers. So we're looking at April, May, June, comparing last year, 2019 to 2020. And the categories are new listings, listings changed to contingent, which means the contract had contingencies in them, or listings that are changed to pending. So this means there's no contingencies in the contract, and closed sales. So in April, comparing 2019 to 2020, you can see there is a big negative difference. I mean, wow, minus 45% for new listings, minus 47%, minus 59% for all the pending and contingent offers. And the number of sales is negative 34% compared to last year. Then we move on to May. You see the numbers actually improved. The negative numbers are less negative. So there's more activities. We are seeing a growth in numbers of activities, both in listings and sold, as well as status change to contingent and pending. I'm sorry, for sold, actually, for the month of May, the sold got worse. But remember in the last slide, this makes sense because prior to that, we were still coming out of the shelter in place. So there were less activities in May compared to April. Now, June, we are seeing some green positive numbers. We have 2% more listings compared to last year. We have 17% more contingent offers than we did last year, 15% more pending listings from last year. And then you can see the minus 14 is a big improvement from minus 54 from the previous month. This is all encouraging news. I think this is, again, validating that activities are happening, buyers are out there, there are more listings getting on, and we're actually doing much better than a year ago, which is just incredible. So let's talk about sales cycle for a moment. So we have 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And in real estate, in a normal year, so let me first talk about in a normal year, non-pandemic year. In a normal year like last year and previous years, we have 2 sales cycles typically, spring and fall. Spring is, families are trying to get their kids into schools, and typically the school enrollment happens in January or February. So spring becomes kind of a heated market because people are trying to get an address so they can plug into the school registration. Then summertime gets really distracted. Kids get out of school, summer vacations are planned, people are away for vacation, so there's less people around, but inventory might be up. We might have kind of a rollover effect from the spring. There might be more inventory in the summer, but there's less buyers out there. So summer gets a little bit stagnant. Typically, it's not the hottest market out there. Fall times, it's interesting because now we're looking at September, October, November. We're getting into kind of the holiday months. So people typically kind of have this last push of the year. If you've set a January New Year resolution, this year I'm going to buy a home. And if you haven't done it in September, you're gonna feel, you know, a fire in your belly. I gotta do it now because it's already September. So when fall comes around, we tend to see another surge in activity where buyers are now back in the market again, and people are back from vacations and they're ready to buy. So our two hottest months for real estate is actually spring and fall. Summer is stagnant because there's just less people around, there's more distractions. Real estate may not be top of mind for people. Winter, meaning December, January, February, is the slowest month for us because of the holiday months. It's also colder. I mean, California doesn't really have that much weather. You know, even in winter, we have very nice winters here, but it's colder. People tend to stay in more. You don't go out as much. We're kind of in hibernation mode in the winter months. And so there are less activities. We have less listings. But it could be advantageous if there's a home out there in the winter for you to try to get in the market, because you likely will have less competition than any other months of the year. So that's the normal year. Let's talk about this year. We don't have that normal predictability this year because of COVID-19. And so we had a really strong spring market where we saw multiple offers. We saw people come out, participate, they were selling, they were buying. And if we did not have COVID-19 in our March, I do not doubt that this would have continued. We would have had a gangbuster spring. Summer would have been great. And I'm sure of it that this year would have been a great real estate year. But we were disrupted. You know, March 17th, we were put in shelter in place. People's plans were put on hold. People got scared. There was a lot of worries in our lives for our safety, for our health, for our financial comfort. So there's a lot of fears now in our lives. But what we're seeing, though, is that people are now ready to get back. People are ready to get back to living, to moving. You know, some of the basic stuffs, their needs they're questioning whether we can meet our needs with buying something bigger and better. And so people are moving again. We can see that in the inventory with the charts and the graphs that we saw previously. So because we were interrupted from basically mid-March through April, I feel like people are now making up for lost time. People are now serious about getting into the market. I feel like this summer, fall, and winter is going to continue to grow. We're going to see prices starting to inch up again. So I don't have a crystal ball, but that is my prediction anyway, that I feel like because we were disrupted from COVID-19, we're just going to come back much stronger and just participate in real estate and try to get back to some kind of a normalcy in real estate. So real estate's change in how we conduct business. There's no more in-person open houses that is allowed, and we'll talk about some of the workarounds later. How are we selling properties if we can't do in-person open houses? Buyers now need an agent in place and a lender in place and a pre-approval letter before they can even set foot in a house. So unlike before, you may go to an open house and there's a lot of neighbors or maybe looky-loos or people who are just kind of looking. They're not really serious, but they're just looking. So this market has gotten very efficient, I feel, because it's filtering those people who are the looky-loos, who are not serious about the market because they can't even go and see the house without an agent and a pre-approval letter. So the market right now only has serious buyers participating in it. So, and I don't think it's a bad thing. There's also been a lot of forms that's been added by the California Association of Realtors, which I will share later, just to kind of give you an overview of what are some of the key changes legally in terms of forms that you need to sign to buy and sell a home that's changed. And then the pre-approval ready, I'll explain that later as well, but seller now has a checkbox that they can check in the listing agreement where they are only allowing pre-approved buyers to step into the home. If they check that checkbox, If you don't have a lender and a pre-approval in place, you can't go in to see the property. Okay, so California, we love our California state. It's the golden state, but it's also a heavily, heavily disclosure state. And what I mean by that is it's a very consumer-friendly, consumer-protected state. When we are exchanging real estate, you're buying and selling, all of the forms that are required by the seller to sign really is to protect the buyers, because we want the buyers to know exactly what they're buying, and all of these forms protect the buyers. Some of them the sellers as well, but it's a disclosure state mainly to protect the buyers. So some of these forms are the PEAD, Property Entry Advisory and Declaration, Coronavirus Addendum, NUCC, Notice of Unforeseen Coronavirus Circumstance, and then the COVID-19 Enhanced Listing Agreement. So I'm going to go over this just on a very high level, what all these forms mean. So the first one is the PEAD, the Coronavirus Property Entry Form. What this form is basically doing when you're signing this form is you're declaring that you're healthy, that you have not been sick, you haven't been in contact with anybody who has tested positive for coronavirus. And this form is required by every visitor, every buyer, every inspector, every vendor that enters your home. They have to sign this to declare that you are healthy. Next is the Coronavirus Addendum. So this one, at an overview level, this essentially we're in a pandemic with a lot of unpredictability and unforeseen circumstances. And so when you sign this, you're saying that you're going to treat each other fairly and in good faith. Should something happen to you as a seller or a buyer, if you contract COVID-19 and no longer able to participate in buying and selling real estate, you're going to treat each other fairly. So that's what this addendum says. And this one ties in with the next form, which is the Notice of Unforeseen Coronavirus Circumstance. So should you, let's say you're in escrow to sell your home, should you as a seller or even a buyer now are affected by the coronavirus, you're now going to state how is it that you're affected. Is it because you lost income, you got laid off, and now you no longer qualify for the loan? Is it because you actually have a personal impact? Were you diagnosed with COVID-19 or someone close to you diagnosed with COVID-19? And this form requires some sort of verification that you are affected by coronavirus, and therefore now you need to get out of the transaction. So that's kind of the overview of the Coronavirus Unforeseen Circumstance form. And then the last one I want to talk about is the Listing Agreement, Coronavirus Addendum. At the bottom of this form, highlighted here, this is something I want to point out is now the seller is requiring you to sign the Coronavirus Property Entry Form. And if you check the last two boxes at the bottom, you are asking that the buyers need to be financially able to buy the home in order for them to even see it. So what that means is they must have a pre-approval in hand by a loan agent before they can even see your home. And then if you check number 3, they also need to, see the property online first before stepping into your home. So if the seller checks both of these boxes, then we are eliminating any non-serious buyers, the buyers who haven't gotten a pre-approval letter, the looky-loos, etc. So I think all of these forms is just minimizing who gets to go in, only allowing the serious buyers to get into the property so that we are eliminating number of contacts. So let's talk about what is effective in attracting buyers right now. So this is a market where we need to give our maximum effort in marketing. And so what that means is we need to do professional staging. We got to make the house as pretty, as model home-like as possible. We need to do professional photos, the virtual tours, 3D tours, Matterport technology, drone photography when it's appropriate. All of these things, all of these technologies are meant to allow the buyers to see your home, you know, on their computer, on their screens, but you're representing the property the best that you can represent the property. You're showing it in the best lighting, the best staging, and all of the technology, the 3D tours, the Matterport technology helps a buyer visualize without going to the property, you know, how the space are orienting. So I just want to show an example of a Matterport technology. Can you see this? Sejal, can you see this?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, 1 second. Okay, let me begin from the beginning. So this is a listing that I had last in Santa Clara, and I have a Matterport tour, which isn't showing very well here, but you can see that there are these rings that the videographer, you know, they put different cameras, and it allows you to walk up the stairs. It allows you to go to different levels, different part of the home, and it's kind of a really immersive experience. So this is what a Matterport tour is. It allows you to kind of spin around the space. If you click on these rings that are in the room, it just takes you to that spot. So it really gives you a good feel of the orientation of the space in this house. So anyways, I just wanted to show that to you really quickly. All right, so next we're gonna go to Sejal, and Sejal's gonna cover a lot of good info here about home staging. Take it away, Sejal.
All right. Well, that was perfect. The Matterport kind of gives us a taste of what a staged property looks like. And so I'll kind of give you a little bit more background on staging. So, you know, a lot of people have heard about staging through design shows, etc. But what exactly is home staging? And so from my perspective, it's the packaging and presentation. And sorry, I'm disappearing again. But I'm the magical disappearing stager that's going to be speaking.
Yeah.
So staging is the packaging and presentation of a property. Just like we go to a store, you buy a car, you buy clothes, a lot of what sells us on buying something is how well something is packaged and presented. So it's creating that wow factor. So the purpose of staging is we want buyers to visualize living in the property. By having beautiful furniture, we want it to be decluttered, and we also want to elevate their experience where they can visualize the life that they would living in the home. And it can even be aspirational. You know, we all want to buy a home because we see ourselves living this you know, amazing life with our family, etc. So in staging, we create little almost subconscious stories throughout the home of what it would feel like for this would be a kid's room, or cooking in the kitchen, or enjoying the backyard. So and the purpose of staging is we prepare the property to make it appealing to the greatest number of people. And if the greatest number of people like your home, then it's going to help us sell it for more money and in the shortest amount of time. And like I said, it's creating an emotional connection, helping buyers create an emotional connection with the home and creating an experience for them as they walk through. And I think, Rosa, you and I were talking about as they spend more time in the home, you know, versus a vacant home, when there's furniture, when there's things to look at, and it's cozy and inviting, it allows buyers to spend more time in each of the rooms and different parts of the home. And that's where they slowly start imagining, you know, could this be the right home for us? And they create a connection to the home. And actually, as you said, Rosa, it's the feeling of we all have when we walk through a beautiful model home. It kind of just like captures you and takes your breath away. So that's a little bit kind of our purpose is with staging. Next slide.
Okay.
And what are the benefits of staging? Well, there's data that's have all sorts of numbers, but you know, a good conservative amount is staging can help you earn 3% higher, 3 to 20%, but let's even take 3% higher than an unstaged home. And in the Bay Area, if you have $1 million property, that's $30,000. So that even that is well way above what you would likely pay on staging, and it's definitely worth the investment. And I've seen it many times on properties that we've staged. So it helps you earn more money, and the other benefit is staging can help you sell the property with fewer days on market versus if it was vacant property or an occupied property, but that wasn't prepared kind of with the staging mindset. And again, it comes back to making it desirable versus kind of mediocre, and it gets passed over by buyers. And for your property, you want it to have the best possible impression.
Yeah, and I would add to Sejal, you probably have more, I guess, data on this, but a home that is staged versus a home that isn't staged could be a matter of it selling or not selling at all.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Not selling at all or being on the market for weeks and months with multiple price reductions, which is not what anybody wants.
Yep, which is a loss in value.
Exactly, exactly. So you don't, as a seller, you don't want to leave any money on the table of the sale process. And so this helps you maximize how much you're going to make.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And then during now this pandemic, it's even more important. And Rosa, you were saying buyers are viewing properties online. There's restrictions for them to even go view in person. So online becomes so critical. And that first impression, you know, people are going to make a subconscious decision within 5 to 10 seconds of seeing a property. You know, they're going to quickly look through the photos. And the same thing happens when they come in person. So staging helps both. Staging plus beautiful photography, professional photography, video helps get the buyers at least shortlist that property to go see. And then when they see it, if it's staged versus not staged, it creates that emotional connection and has that really nice polished look that we were talking about.
Yep, absolutely.
So how home staging works, if you haven't worked with the stager, is usually either your real estate agent might recommend a few stagers or a stager as a seller to reach out to, or you may do your own search on Yelp or through word of mouth or referral. And so once you call a stager, they'll want to come see the property, so you schedule an appointment. Things are all very different with each staging company right now. We are allowed to stage during the early part of the pandemic. We were all very cautious, and I think our rules were we weren't able to stage, and then slowly we were able to stage vacant homes. And right now, I think it's every stager's discretion on to how involved they get in terms of occupied homes or even vacant homes. We are currently staging vacant homes with limited involvement in occupied homes. So that's kind of caveat with where we are right now. But the stager will come take a look at the property, and they will talk to you about what's your budget, what's your timeline to get on the market. And that helps us create the best plan and scenario for, what to advise to do. If as a seller, you're going to be moving out of the property, then we will approach it as a vacant home staging. If you're going to be living in it, we can make recommendations on how to present it best with what there is to work with. And now different stagers have different scopes of involvement. I love getting in as early as possible because I would like to come in and see the house to be able to give guidance on things such as light fixtures and paint colors. A lot of times homes have dated oak cabinets, which we see a lot. And there's some great low budget fixes of painting cabinets or adding new hardware, changing out those, 1970s and 80s large brass dining room light fixtures to something modern. And each of those things creates a great impact, and for not a whole lot of money. So once I kind of know what's the budget and timeline, I can kind of guide the listing agent and the seller on what I think will be the best bang for everyone's buck, and it makes a difference. So so we'll give you that type of guidance as you're preparing the home for sale. And then, as I mentioned, for occupied homes, generally we're not bringing lots of things in, but what we can do is give you either in-person or video consultation. What we want to do mainly is pack away any heavy, bulky pieces of furniture. We want to create a nice open flow. If you have a sofa that's torn up or, stained or in bad shape, we'll probably try to brainstorm ways of maybe freshening up some of the pieces. And a lot of times we can work with beds, and, I would maybe recommend getting fresh bedding, fresh towels, and that type of thing. So there's options there. We can do it via FaceTime or Zoom or in person. The easier ones in terms of right now during the pandemic are vacant homes, because we know everyone's out of the property. It's been cleaned. So we feel safer in terms of bringing all of our stuff in. And so for those, we'll provide a staging quote. And then ultimately, if that's a go, we will come in and bring everything from furniture down to the little coffee cup and book and a tray, from big stuff to the little touches that creates that finished product. Just to give a rough sense, every staging company has a different niche, different price points, etc. But just for a sample, maybe 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot condo or home, we would probably charge around $4,000 to $5,000 for 1 month of staging. And for me, that includes all of that preparation guidance. And so that's included. Another stager may quote staging plus maybe hourly design guidance rate or something like that. But for me, I look at it very holistically. The better the house is prepared for us, then we can really do our magic, and all of that translates to successful sales. So it's fun for me. So here's a fun little quarantine case study that can demonstrate what I'm talking about with all of this preparation. The price point of this property the listing price was 2.18. We just did it about, I would say, a month and a half ago, 1 to 2 months ago. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2,030 square feet in San Carlos, up in the hills. And it was first listed at the beginning of quarantine, and they weren't able to get staging, but the family wanted to go ahead and put the house on the market, so it was vacant. And they had some dated fixtures. They had, brass doorknobs and kind of some dated brass light fixtures and things like that. And it was on the market for a few weeks. They did receive an offer, and however, that fell out of escrow. So I was referred to the agent through a mutual realtor. And so the agent called me, and I took a walk through the property. And immediately these things, because we're so used to looking for these items that can be updated, I chatted with her afterward, and I said, I'll give you a quote for staging, but I recommend these, essential things. The front porch lights were dated. And, I think that we always talk about curb appeal. The thing that one of the very important parts is what the buyer sees as soon as they pull up to your property. And it's down to little things like house numbers, the font of the house number. Sometimes the house number is eroded, or it's an old brass or like a dated font, and just updating the font of the numbers, which house numbers cost about $5 each. So let's say you have 4 house numbers, it's a $20 fix that actually can make your home feel like a 20-year newer home, just in that first approach to the property. So we made those kind of recommendations, plus recommendations for things inside. And what was great is the sellers took those recommendations to heart. They took a couple weeks, they worked on those items, and then we staged the property. And like I said, it was listed at 2.198. And what was incredible is it was beyond what we even expected. It went pending in 2 days. They had multiple offers, and it ultimately sold for 2.3 million. So that's 102,000 more, with probably, I would say, less than $10,000 put in for the cumulative updates that they did.
So this is well worth the cost of the staging, which for this one, do you remember how much it was? This is a larger home.
This is a larger home, so I think the cost of the staging was about $8,000.
Okay.
And there were 3 large kind of patio spaces, so we really maximized the back area. And you know, we staged all the bedrooms, created kids' rooms, an office, and really made it like a inviting experience to tour the property.
Yeah, well worth the investment.
Well worth the investment. And you would think in the 2 million range during the quarantine, you know, this, like I said, this was when we were allowed to stage again, but we're still in the pandemic. But even at that price point, to have multiple offers in 2 days, it made me realize that the people who are looking, and they are keeping an eye on properties that meet their criteria.
Yes, I agree with that. I think the people who are buying now are serious buyers.
Yes.
They're not really the low ballers because they know it doesn't work. And so when they find a home that they love, they're going to pay for it. And that's why there's multiple offers.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was incredible even for us. So it's always neat when we ourselves are pleasantly surprised by the power of preparation and staging. So
great job there. That's an amazing story.
Thank you. So of course the fun part is seeing before and afters. So I just have a few to share. This is the formal living room of that same property in San Carlos that I'm talking about. The wall colors look different, but actually no painting was done. It's just the lighting and brightness of the photos. But again, you can see on the left, it's beautiful, vaulted ceilings, nice hardwood floor, but there's nothing to connect with, you know? So by bringing in furniture, creating an elegant ambiance for people to imagine, oh, this is where I would spend, you know, where holidays with, or a family can sit here, we're all gonna, you know, hang out and spend time together. All of these little touches help create that feeling.
Yeah, the photo on the left, there's nothing grabbing my attention, I feel.
Exactly. And so yeah, the photo on the right. This is the master bedroom of that same property. Again, we wanted to create a beautiful master suite feeling. In that property, the master bedroom looked out over the pool, and there was a cute little sitting area right outside the sliding glass doors. And we just wanted to create a feeling of this is where you could wake up and have your coffee and be able to go for a swim or watch the kids while they're swimming. And just little touches of color. And we did a little coffee tray on the bench at the foot of the bed. And just these little pieces of life that people could imagine living.
Yeah, definitely. And my eyes are immediately gravitating towards that patio and then the swimming pool. It's inviting when you have that furniture to kind of grab you.
Exactly. And that's what happens is when a house is vacant, there's really nothing pulling you to the next room. But with staging, what happens is you're already curious because you see some sort of pop of color, or you see something further, and it brings you from one room to the next. And actually in staging, we talk about like the door frame view. And if you're walking down a hallway and there's different bedrooms, we imagine just that quick look from the doorway should make you want to go into the room. And there should be enough grabbing you as you're passing by. So a lot of times as stagers, when we're staging, we'll go back to the doorway of that room and see how does it look from there. And it's similar to where the photographer is probably going to take some of their pictures. So it's all about compelling buyers to be able to walk in.
Great.
And the next picture is another very beautiful property. It was on the water in San Mateo, a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. And again, gorgeous home. Everything was redone. The kitchen was beautifully updated. The floors were beautifully new floors. But again, you can see, even in a gorgeously updated home, the room on the left with the beautiful view, it still is lacking that finished feeling. And so on the right, we have brought in furniture. This was a kind of a contemporary, we imagined a young family living there. So we kind of created like a sitting poof and a cool coffee table, and mixed it with some wood and some textures with the pillows and the shag pillows, etc. So I wanted to create a fun vibe that didn't feel too formal, and then out of this scene is a cool bar cart near the fireplace. So again, a really nice scene for entertaining, especially whoever buys this will probably want to entertain with the view. It had a beautiful deck, etc. So that was a fun one.
Great.
And then here's again just a different home in San Mateo, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And this is, we wanted to kind of create, in this home we had another cute kids room. This we want to create kind of more of a neutral guest room, or a older teenagers room. So again, walls are the same, it's just the lighting in my pictures, but on the left and then on the right is a more pulled back, wider shot view. Just very cool, clean. We wanted to kind of create that hotel with really nice bedding all tucked in and neat. And we have like a console table with a globe. That's where maybe a family could imagine a desk or a work area, or like I said, a guest room. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here. I feel like the picture on the left, it's really bland, like vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
And then the one on the right, you've got all the nice toppings on top of this really nice ice cream, right? You've got the brownies, the nuts, the M&Ms, I don't know, sour worms. That's like my favorite, whatever. You throw that on and it just makes it so much better.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's like giving your palate, your palate, something to chew on.
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's a great analogy. So kind of the highlights of staging is, as you're looking, like I said, you want to bring your stager in as early as possible. And if it's a home you're going to be living in while it's going on the market, start to detach yourself from the home. And, of course, it's been a place where people have lots of memories, they spend a lot of time. But I think if by starting to detach, we tell people to depersonalize, pack up your photos, your trophies, any religious or cultural mementos, because we don't want to have anything in the home that would dissuade a potential buyer from seeing themselves living in it. So we want to universalize the property as much as possible. And actually, I find it's kind of a relief for sellers. Once they start packing their items up, all that deep attachment starts diminishing, and it allows you to be more objective and really make great decisions on what's going to help sell that property. So like I said, we're trying to make it appeal to the largest number of people, which hopefully means a greater number of offers. It's all numbers. So depersonalize, declutter, reduce the amount of furniture pieces. Basically, you really want to think, what's the flow? And we want people to be able to easily walk through room to room, not run into big pieces of furniture, and not feel like the property has too much furniture and they're not able to feel the flow of the home, and that it should feel spacious. We tell people to pack up extra clothes from your closets because, Rosa, I'm sure you can agree, people will open up kitchen cabinets, cupboards, closets.
Yes, everything. Closets, anything that has a handle on it.
Anything that has a handle on it, they're going to open. And that's them trying to figure out, will the storage space work for them? And the last thing we want is a buyer to feel, oh, this closet is so cramped, that must mean there's not enough space for our stuff. So really pare down, and what's even better is organize everything you have in your closets. If you must keep stuff there, neatly stack it. You don't want it to be, I like stuff off the floor. And if you want to get neurotic and really, hang your clothes by color or by length, just whatever you can do to create a neat, tidy, organized, and spacious feeling is going to help the price of the home. So all of that, just know that it's going to help you in your sale price. And like I said, pare down closets and cabinets. And actually, back to the decluttering, I'm a huge fan of decluttering, and people on my social media see me post about it all the time. So I've written a small book that's on Amazon called The Decluttering Game. So if you need a little extra oomph on, getting yourself to declutter as you're getting ready to list your home, check that out. It's a very short, fun little book. There's 5 little challenges that will help you hopefully get rid of clutter.
Is this an actual book you can buy, or do you go to the website?
No, you can go to the website, which will lead you to Amazon. But if you go to Amazon.com and just type in either my name or the decluttering game, my good friend Paula Keen and I co-wrote it during the quarantine. It was a little fun quarantine project. I've helped Paula. She's a 30-year retired home organizer. She's done other things, but we've always connected on the passion we have for decluttering, and we just co-wrote it virtually during the quarantine. So that was a fun.
How fun.
Yeah.
I will go out and get that book. Everybody else should get that book as well.
Yep. And
even if you're not selling, I think it would also help us while we're sheltering to declutter our home so that we can feel comfortable, because we're all spending time at home in just amazing amounts of times now, right?
Exactly. So in fact, that was the goal for the book, is to get people while they're home to really let go of their clutter, feel lighter, less stressed, and less congested with the whole family being home, etc.
I love it.
Yeah, so pretty much that's it. You know, my recommendation is to stage, and then like you we'll have talked about, professionally photograph. Those Matterport tours really help people envision being in the home. So those all help to for buyers to get a sense of the property. And then of course your agent will market the property, and hopefully it'll lead to a very successful sale, which we've seen many, many times.
Yes. That's the winning formula there.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Sejal. That was really fun and informative, and it was nice to see all the before and after pictures. I think visually, I think you can really see the difference between a non-stage vacant homes and the ones that are beautifully remodeled, beautifully staged and prepped.
Exactly. And sometimes the staging amounts sound high, but as you can see, it really does pay off. It's a little bit of a investment. You have to be ready to take it on, but it really does pay off on the back end. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so back to the real estate side of things. So market pace, I just want to spend a minute to talk about currently what's happening. So the market's moving really fast, especially for these IT homes, the 10 homes, the homes that are staged, that are showing beautifully. They're selling in mere days. You know, I'm talking about less than 1 week's time. Sejal had an example of that property not selling initially during the first phase of SIP, but now within 2 days, they got multiple offers. So that's how hot the market is right now for those ready and willing buyers. They're not waiting for the weekends, because why wait? There's no open houses to go to. If you have an agent, when the house gets on the market, you just go see it, because it might be snatched from you without you even being notified. Agents are not setting offer due dates nowadays because the market is unpredictable. We are changing week by week. There could be one bad news in one particular week, and it could be a matter of the house not selling that week. It might wait a little bit longer. So sellers are not waiting for offer due dates. They're willing to just see offers as they come. So I would say it's unpredictable, but for the buyers who are ready and willing, they are buying these properties in just 2, 3, 4 days. The homes that are not as prepped, the homes that are not staged, they're not really advised by their agents to make the house as nice as possible. They're not taking the professional pictures. It just doesn't show well on the MLS, and you've seen those, I'm pretty sure. Those are taking time to sell. And I would say that's true given any market. Those houses that are not prepped and marketed well always take longer to sell. And we talked about the less predictability in this market. So as a seller, you know, you and I would have a conversation about, you know, remaining flexible and really think about what is your objective in selling right now in this, you know, challenging time. What are you trying to do? And is your goal aligned with, you know, our price point? Are we priced too high? What is your expectation? And try to remain flexible in this market, because it's a very turbulent market. Things are just changing week by week depending on what we're hearing out there in the news. We do not need open houses to sell a home. I think that's going to be one big takeaway out of this webinar is truly, we don't need open houses to sell a home. So my experience with virtual open houses, and we are doing them mostly, is that I've hosted them. They're just not very well attended. I would say there are less than 5 in each of the ones that I've done. Buyers who do sign up to the virtual open houses are typically very new to the market. They're there to get a feel of the market and they don't typically have an agent yet. So the buyers who are hot and ready, extremely motivated, they're willing to write an offer today are coming with their agents to see the home in person by an appointment. We don't need open houses to sell a home. And in fact, if you were to look at all the listings that are out there right now, a large percentage of the homes listed do not even offer virtual open house options because we don't need them to sell. For me, I'm still doing them because I want to expose your house to the entire market, even the buyers who are inexperienced and new. And that's still a good way for you to get to know the market and to get in and speak with an agent. So they're not a bad thing to do, but they're not the most effective right now in selling a home. So let's talk about the workarounds for live open houses. So in lieu of the live open house, we are able to do virtual open houses, and virtual open houses are done via Zoom, just like what we're on right now. It's a Zoom meeting. And they're either going to be live where the agent is at the house at the time of the virtual open house, and she or he is going to walk you through the home as if she is showing it to you room by room and showing you features about the home. The challenge with doing it that way, being live, is that we don't have Wi-Fi a lot of the times at these homes. And so if the signals are not coming through and the Zoom meetings are choppy, like I had in this other listing I had in Santa Clara, a pre-recorded virtual tour is also another good option, which is I went to the house before the set virtual open house date and hours, and I just recorded it with my phone, and it was a video. I still went through it room by room. I went outside, talked about the features, and anything you would do at a virtual open house, except I didn't have an audience in front of me. So then during the virtual open house, I played the pre-recorded tour, but I was able to also answer questions and pause on the video when people had a specific question about that room, or maybe the size of this particular closet, for example. Something else that is developing right now is advanced appointment showings. So obviously the one type of showing is the buyer agents are calling the listing agents and they're making the appointment in advance and they're bringing their own buyers. Of course, that's already being done. What we are trying to do right now, and this is so great being part of the Intero company, is that we have an in-house legal department who's been guiding us through this entire process with all of the COVID changes, how it applies to realtors and just the real estate industry, how we do business. We are allowed to do live open houses if all of the appointments, if all of the people coming in have made previous appointments with us. And so let's say I set a Saturday 1 to 4 time frame and a Sunday 1 to 4, and it is a live open house, but people need to make advance appointment with me prior, and I'm only allowing one set of buyers in the house at a time. Or if it's a walk-up appointment, they would have to wait till all of the other appointments have been made and gone through the home before the walk-up appointments can happen. So this is another option that is fairly new, I would say, that is available to us agents in showing the house. But again, I don't think this is the way that houses are selling these days, especially for these beautifully staged 10 homes, because they're already selling before the weekend comes out. So let's talk about the conduct of home showings. How are they being conducted? I mentioned earlier, vacant homes have always been able to be shown. Now, occupied homes while the seller steps out is considered equal to the vacant homes. Appointments have to be made in advance, and only 2 visitors at a time from the same household can step into the home at once. So let's say you're a family of 4, I can only take 2 of you in at a time. The other 2 has to wait outside, and then you would swap when the first 2 is done. So that's just how the law is written, how the order is written. We have to do 2 at a time from the same household. If it's a vendor, let's say a contractor or maybe an inspector, a painter, we can only allow 1 set of vendor in at a time. You have to remain social distancing and also wear face mask and gloves while you're going into these homes to visit. So I'm going to share my home listing process. So the remaining of the slides are not changed because of the COVID-19. Everything going forward are just the normal home listing process. Nothing's been changed because it's still the same amount of prep work, same amount of marketing and timeline. So when I list your home, I divided it into 3 phases. The first phase, I'm calling it the market research and prep phase. And in this phase, I'm doing, your seller analysis. I'm going to analyze your motivation, your availability, your concerns, and your goals. And I will do a market research for you based on your immediate area, your neighborhood. What are some of the trends? What are some of the market conditions we should be aware of? And come up with kind of a rough list price. Of course, the list price can move. It's always a moving target. Is it going to go up or is it going to go down by the time you're ready to list and sell your home in phase 2? So the local market research is sort of an ongoing thing, but in phase 1, we always look at it to give you an idea. But in phase 2, we would revisit it just to make sure we're doing the most up-to-date pricing. We talk about property preparation. Staging is a big deal, and so we will talk about staging. We have inspections we need to do. There may be repairs that's going to come up from the inspection reports. We might talk about some light upgrades. And this is kind of a thing that comes up a lot with sellers. They would ask me about, should I, rip out all my cabinets and just put in new ones? Should I do a full remodel? And so I would be able to talk about the cost of return with you. What are some key things you can do to minimize your cost, but it would have big impact on the return? How much money are you going to gain from the sale perspective? Maybe we don't have to replace the cabinet. Maybe we can resurface and paint it white, for example, to make it as bright as possible. And if we're working with a stager like Sejal, she would be able to give us some key things we can change without all these upfront heavy upgrade costs. It's always the little changes that makes a big impact. There are, of course, the seller disclosures, being California a disclosure state. So there's a big packet that I would be giving to you, and you would fill out all of the history, a questionnaire about the property. So we'll go over the seller disclosures, and as well as creating a timeline. What does it look like for you and your expectation, your availability, and what kind of work are we going to put into marketing your home, and what's the timeline? So I would create a calendar for you for that. Then once all of that's done, we move to phase 2. This is marketing and pricing. So pricing strategy is identifying the recent comparable sales. So again, here we're looking at the most recent market data to be able to price your property appropriately for the time. And marketing would involve putting your house on the MLS. I like doing single property websites, which is usually youraddress.com, 123mainstreet.com, for example. And that website would contain all of the information about your property. The virtual tour or the 3D tour would be on there. A map of your property would be on there, kind of like the other listing I was showing you earlier. And then phase 3 would be sale management. Not very many agents talk about, what happens once we do all of this work and now we got an offer. There's actually a whole management side that happens during the escrow period. the offer reviewing process. How do we compare offer A to offer F, for example? Let's say there's multiple offers. What are some of the buyer agent management that will be involved? How do I determine which offer is best if comparing side by side they're the same? Sometimes I may be picking one agent over another because of, track records of the other agents, or maybe my experience with one agent over another. My job is to really see through to the end of the escrow, making sure that this is going to be a successful sale for you. We do not want to sell this house twice. We don't want it to fall through and you have to put the house back on the market. So a lot of that is the sale management side. Sometimes we may not be picking the best offer because of numbers. It may be that this buyer financially is more stable, more sound based on the financials they've given. So there's a lot that's involved with the sale management. And then contingency, so contract management is, making sure their contingencies are removed, keeping in touch with the buyer's agent, making sure that they're doing everything they agree to do based on the contract, and making sure that the escrow and coordination and closing is happening on time. So that's kind of the overview of the listing process, phase 1, 2, and 3. Proven sales process. So superior preparation and effective marketing result in more showings. More showings lead to more offers. More offers mean we have choice to negotiate the highest possible price. Pricing for success. Getting the price right the first time is the single most effective piece of marketing there is. I don't know where I got this from, but I thought this is really powerful. So really the first 2 weeks of the house being on the market is the most important 2 weeks for selling a house. After this time, it really becomes a stale listing and buyers begin to look at the listing unfavorably. They'll come up with things that's wrong with the house and talk down on the pricing. We're in a market with no predictability, so pricing is extremely important. We can't price too low because buyers are not eager sometimes to pay way over list price right now. And we can't price too high because then we risk not getting offers during the first 2 weeks. So there is a sweet spot in there. We will be relying on data, really, the most recent pendings and solds to determine the right pricing. So here is a hypothetical timeline from beginning to end. So phase 1, 2, and 3. The preparation, it's hypothetically, I would say 2 to 4 weeks. That's a good amount of time for us to do the prep work. It could take longer if there are, some major repairs we have to get through first, or if vendors are not available, if we're not able to schedule them, and that can impact our timing. It may be longer than the 4 weeks. And on the MLS, if we did everything right, if we staged the property, if we priced the home correctly, we did everything right, we should be able to sell the home in 1 to 2 weeks' time, okay? And the sale management is when you've accepted an offer and now we're in escrow. So the typical time is 4 weeks, about 30 days for it to be from beginning to closing. This sale management, part of it used to be shorter. Lenders were able to close as soon as maybe 18 days previously. But because of COVID-19, there's just a bottleneck with appraisers going out to homes to appraise. So what I'm seeing out there right now is everything is closing just around 30 days. And that's, typically in the Bay Area, things move faster, but if you compare it with the rest of the country, 30 days is still a really fast time. I've heard horror stories of a house being in escrow for 3 months in Texas. We just operate at a faster pace than anywhere else in the country. So I think 30 days is still not bad. So let's drill down a bit more on phase 1. What are some of the key milestones in the preparation part of this process? First, seller signs the listing agreement. And then the first week, we're just ordering inspections. We're scheduling the vendors for bids, lining up the work. Week 2 is when we actually maybe can start doing the work with the vendors. Then the inspectors actually come to your house and inspect. Week 3 or 4 or 5, this is again hypothetical, is when all the work is complete. Now we can clean the house, we can take pictures, we can stage, and now we're ready to market. So again, this is kind of a moving piece. These are just best case scenario if things align and all of the people that I hire is able to work when I need them to work. I don't have a phase 2 here, but phase 2 really is when we're on the market. So that's 1 to 2 weeks. I would say maybe even shorter, maybe the 2 days, the best case scenario. This is a typical escrow period, and a typical escrow period, seller accepted your offer. That would be day 0. After day 3, buyer puts in a 3% deposit. If there is contingency, and that could be anywhere from day 7 to day 12, perhaps, and contingency, I would say it's a luxury for a buyer to put in. If it's a multiple offer situation, chances are pretty good that we're not going to see the contingency in there. And contingency is something that allows the buyers to back out of the contract and not lose their deposit. Then day 28 is when buyer typically puts down their remainder of their down payment. Then we do our sign-off appointment where you're signing off the title documents at the title company. And as a seller, you should be vacating the home and getting it ready for the buyers to take over at the end of day 30, when you deliver the keys to them, and that's when we actually close the escrow, and then this completes the entire sale. So anyway, we are well over time. This went past the 1 hour, but this was a lot of information, and I hope you guys were able to get some really good information on this. And I'm so happy that I had Sejal here to help me with the staging part of the webinar. It was fun. I love seeing the before and after picture. It's fun to have.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Sejal.
Thank you, Rosa. This was a lot of fun, and I think a lot of great information. So.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.